watching another episode of The Real Tea with ESG. And I'm your host, Evan Saint-Gerard. Today's guest is Lou Delicio. I'm pretty sure I butchered your last name. How do I say it correctly?
Louis D'Alessio, D'Alessio.
Delicio.
Yeah.
All right.
So I've been practicing for 20 years. Graduated from Brooklyn Law School. I do real estate, residential, commercial, leasing. I do business formation. It's pretty much all I do.
Lou, can you walk us through the process of person lists the house, they put the house on the market, they get the accepted offer, and now they're buying the next house. Walk us through the process.
All right. So, obviously the first situation is kind of know your financial situation, right? I think that's number one. If you're buying and selling, if you're selling to buy, can you afford to carry two mortgages for a period of time? Do you have a backup plan? It could be a family gift. You can liquidate some assets, a bridge loan or hard money, just in case things don't go the way you plan it to be. And the next step would be really, hiring a good agent, an attorney, and a loan officer, a mortgage broker to have a team behind you before you kind of step out and list the property and also start searching for properties to purchase. So, in the second thing I would say in a situation when you're selling to buy, is know the market that you're in, right? And that's where the real estate agents kind of, earn their keep, is to know if it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. Now,
so we're looking for someone who doesn't need to sell they don't need to move quickly. They might be living with their parents, or they might, they might have a situation that just matches what the seller is looking to do. Sorry for cutting you off. Continue.
That's okay. So going back to looking at the market itself, right? If you're in a buyer's market, you can do certain things. Like you want to see that you can get an all cash buyer. Like Evan said, you can get a buyer who is not looking to sell their house to buy yours, or they're renting, or they're living with their parents, whatever it may be, right? The person with the best situation doesn't necessarily mean that the person who's the highest offer, right? But when you're trying to sell to buy, you want to make sure your deal has the least amount of risk as possible, right? That's my opinion of the situation, right? The three is to know your market, okay? So knowing your market means whether it's a seller's market or a buyer's market. We've been in a seller's market for what, Evans?
Quite a while.
Quite a while right now.
Honestly, it's aging me right now. If you can
yeah. So when you're in a seller's market, you have the ability as a seller to kind of dictate what's going on. Okay. So we can tell them that, we're selling a property. We're selling this property to buy another one. We can ask for extended time on our closing end. Instead of doing an on or about, say, 60 days, we can do an on or about 90 days. And then you tack on the New York State, case law, which gives you an additional 30 days of adjournment after that period. And you can put yourself out, either 90 or 120 days before you have to actually close, right? And even with that, there's other things that can occur that can delay the closing on that. But when you're in the seller's market, you're more in control, right? So you want to basically make sure that you have, your house ready and staged. You want to have a buyer who's ready, willing, and able to buy without any contingencies. We talk about this a lot. Is the best buyer is not necessarily the highest offer. The best buyer could be the one that is living with their parents, who is renting, who comes in at all cash but a little bit lower on the price. Basically, the best buyer is the one that gives you the highest amount of money for your house, but also the least amount of risk of the deal falling apart in the future. Okay, that's what I would consider the best buyer when you're looking to sell to buy. Okay, and that's when you're in a seller's market, you have the ability to dictate a little bit more on your terms, what you want to do. Okay, when you're in a buyer's market, you have the ability to ask for to ask for a little bit more time on the purchase end, as opposed to the sale end, right? You could say, when you go to look for a house, you can say, I need to sell my house, so I want to do 90 days on that end. You can do it there as well. You also have a better chance of getting a contingency on your sale in the contract. Now, when I talk about that, I'm saying, when you're the seller, you don't want a contingency for the purchase, that for someone who's purchasing your property. You don't want a sale contingency in your contract. But when you're going to buy, right, in a buyer's market, you can actually ask for a buyer's contingency, a sale contingency on your transaction, saying that the deal is contingent upon the sale of the house that you have on the market, and if it doesn't go through, that you can cancel the contract and get your money back. So your chances of getting that in the contract is better in a buyer's market than it would be in a seller's market. Because if you think about it, if the seller has 10 offers, right, and you're 3 of them have sale contingencies or have to sell their house to buy, and the other 7 don't, you think you're going to go to the top of the list? Probably not, right? They're probably going to go with somebody else who is going to give them less issue and give them less risk of the deal falling apart, right? So you want to basically know what you're dealing with, know the market, buyers or sellers markets. Okay. The other thing that you want to make sure that we have is it's most likely that if you're selling to buy, you're going to have what they call a piggyback closing. Okay. And what we mean by that is you're going to sell and then you're going to buy. And now that could be on the same day, or that could be a day apart or 3 days apart, whatever it may be. So in that situation, you want to make sure that you can get what they call a post-closing possession clause in your contract for the sale of your house. Okay. So
that's a client calling right now.
So what you want to get in the contract is something stating that when you sell your house to this particular buyer, that you have the ability to stay in the house after closing for a period of time. And what that requires is the seller's attorney would hold an escrow. Sometimes it goes from anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000. I'm usually in the $5,000 range, that I would hold that money in escrow, and it would allow you to stay in the house after the closing for up to 7 days, right? And that allows you to basically get your purchase closing on either the same day or the next day, and time to move your stuff from your old house to your new house, right? So that's something that you want to make sure you get in the contract when you're selling to buy, because otherwise, you're going to have to find alternate housing. You're going to have to put stuff in storage, etc. Right? And we've run into this a few times, and I've run into it plenty of times. But
I just want to add one little thing. It's very important to the viewers, anyone who's considering buying and selling at the same time. Whatever your plans are, let your professionals know exactly what's going on. It's very important. We're not mind readers. If you don't tell us certain things, we can't fix certain things. So we need to know everything. So just be very candid with us. Here's what's going on. I need to sell this house for X amount of reasons, and I need to be in the next house at a certain time frame. Just let us know. If there's an issue basically with your moving, let us know that beforehand. Don't wait till the last minute to tell us these things.
One other thing I want to jump on that is if you're looking to buy out of state, you also got to understand that those rules are different than New York, right? So New York, we don't have a hard closing date. So if we put on or about March 15th, it could go between March 15th and April 14th, a 30-day period in between those two dates. There's a 30-day period, and we can close anytime in there. Whereas if you're buying in South Carolina, they have a hard date where if you don't close by that date, that they can hold you in default and try to keep your deposit. So especially if you're moving out of state, you have to know what you're dealing with here versus what you're dealing with there. And you have to let your professionals, the attorney, the realtors, whoever, know what your situation is. Otherwise you can lose money. So we don't want to fall into that situation.
I'm going to stress this one more time. Communicate with your professionals. If you're moving out of state or if you're staying in state, it doesn't really matter. Let us know who's on the other side, whether you're buying out of state, who's the other realtor, who's the mortgage person, who's the attorney. Let us know so we can be communication with them, so we can put everything together for you so you're not stressed out. The job that we want to do is basically make sure we take care of everything where you're not stressed out.
The last thing I would say when you're doing a piggyback type deal is have a backup plan, right? I said this before in this Zoom meeting. I'm saying it again. Have a backup plan. Now, what I mean by that is, if everything falls apart in the sense that we're supposed to close on the sale and then it doesn't happen, or we're supposed to close on the purchase and then your seller can't get out in time or whatever it may be. You have to make sure you have that in the back of your head on what you're going to do. Or your worst of all, your financing falls through because something happens, right? Which would be catastrophic. But you have to have some sort of idea of what your situation is and what you can do. And some of the things that you can do is, obviously, if you can't move in, there's a short-term rental, Airbnb, VRBO, extended stay America, whatever you want to do, family, however you want to do it, right? That's what I would say. In addition to the short-term rental, having a family place to go, whatever it be, the post-closing possession is probably the best of all those three, right? Because you have to stay in your own home. So those would be your options there. Financially, I would speak to your parents or whomever it may be, if you can get a financial gift to help bridge you to the next deal if your financing falls through, whatever it may be. The next thing would be a bridge loan or a hard money loan that could get done in a quicker period of time that could help you bridge the gap if something fell through. It's important to basically know what your options are. I mean, if the seller and the buyer want to get the transaction done, ultimately they'll figure it out, right? So, if everything falls apart and you go to the buyer and you say, or the seller, and you say, listen, I need to adjourn and move the closing date back. It has a ripple effect because they're trying to do their own thing with their moving and their financing and their rate locks and all the other stuff. You just got to be mindful of that. But also, like I said, if the two parties that are in the transaction are looking to actually facilitate the closing, the attorneys and everybody will work together. It may cost you a couple of bucks, to get an extension or whatever it may be. But ultimately, if you're looking at if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Okay. That's really it for, piggybacks. I mean, I guess one other thing would be, when you should start putting in offers. I recommend for my clients when they're selling to buy is I don't really want them going to this. If you're selling a house, I don't want you putting in offers on a house that you're looking to buy until we're either A, in contract, right? B, we're in contract and the buyer has their mortgage commitment, which is my best case scenario. That's my favorite, because now I know that the financing's in, the contract signed, the financing's in. We're kind of in a good place during the contract phase. And then the third one would be contracts in, financing is secured, and we have title in. So I know that there's no hiccups in the title side too. So we typically give a buyer 45 days to get a mortgage commitment, right? So basically what I'm trying to say here is maybe we should wait. We should wait either that 45-day period before you start putting in offers on a new house, or if the buyer gets it earlier, say a 30-day period, they give us a commitment in 30 days, then you start putting in your offers and going to look for the houses. Because otherwise the buyer can cancel if they can't get their loan within that 45 days or that 30-day period. And then here you are putting in offers or trying to sign a contract, and the deal could fall apart in that period of time. So that's a very important part of this thing. On top of that too is also your rate, right? You also have to understand, and I put this in my emails when I send out all my contracts, is that when you're looking to lock an interest rate, you have to be mindful that if it says on or about 60 days or on or about a day that, March 31st, whatever, there's that 30-day period. So you don't want to lock in your rate prior to that extra 30-day period. When a lot of buyers do it, a lot of sellers who are buying do it, and then they're now having an issue that they want their rates expire and they want to close on their purchase, right? And meanwhile, the sale is not there yet, and now you either have to extend and it's going to cost you money, or you're going to have to figure out a way to either let the lock lapse and then relock at a higher rate. Especially in this market with the rates going up, that could be a very serious issue for you. So just be mindful.
I think I'm going to stress this one more time. Communication is the key. Notify, let your for the realtors, for the attorneys, your lenders, everybody, let everybody know what your intentions are, what you want to do, and they'll advise you basically the best scenarios. This is what you need to do. You need to do this, this, and this. But be very candid with the professionals that you're hiring. Lou, thank you so much, basically, for your advice on all this stuff. And if anybody's interested, I hope basically you found this video entertaining, first of all, and educational. So, with that being said, I'm Evan Saint-Gerard, and thanks for watching The Real Tea with ESG and Lou.
All right, guys.
Have a good one, guys. See ya.
See ya.
We'll stop right here.